Ichiyō Higuchi mastered classical Japanese literature in 3 years, something that took men decades at imperial universities. And she did it alone, without money, at the age of 17. How? 8 secret techniques she stole by observing geishas. When Ichiyo's father died, she had 2 options: marry for convenience or master writing professionally, impossible for women in 1889. Unable to afford formal education, she moved to the Yoshiwara district and began obsessively observing how geishas learned. She noticed something revolutionary. These women mastered shamisen, dance, poetry, tea ceremony, and refined conversation in years, not decades. By the age of 24, Ichiyō was Japan's most celebrated writer. Today, you will discover exactly the 8 techniques she used. Stay until the end, because technique number 7 is the one Ichiyō used to write his masterpiece in just 3 months, and it will completely change how you absorb complex knowledge. Minarai, silent observation before action. When? Ichiyō Higuchi decided to become a writer at age 17. Everyone expected her to simply start writing. But she did the opposite. She moved into a miserable little room next to the Yoshiwara district and spent months just observing. She watched the geishas walking, talking, gesturing. She observed how the light hit their kimonos, how the maiko lowered their eyes when greeting clients, how the silence had different textures depending on the time of day. She was practicing minarai, the apprentice. Geisha stage where you don't play a shamisen, you don't dance, you don't speak, you just absorb. This goes against everything you've been taught about productivity, right? We live in a culture of execute fast, fail fast, iterate. I fell into this trap when I tried to learn guitar. I bought the instrument, opened YouTube, and wanted to play a complete song on the first day. The result? 3 weeks later, I gave up frustrated. I didn't invest time observing how guitarists hold the instrument, how they position their fingers at rest, how they breathe before starting. I skipped minarai straight to amateur playing and paid the price. Kyoto maiko spend 3 to 6 months literally just accompanying geiko, veteran geisha, to parties without doing anything. They sit quietly in the corner of the ozushiki while the mistresses chat, laugh, serve sake, and play the shamisen. It seems like a waste of time until you understand. They are absorbing thousands of micro-patterns that no manual teaches. The exact timing of when to laugh at a joke, the body inclination when serving tea, the precise moment to fill a silence or let it breathe. Ichiyō realized that this method accelerated mastery because his brain mapped the entire territory before taking the first step. Here's the brutal exercise Ichiyō would have you do. Before attempting to learn anything, spend an entire week just observing masters without touching the instrument, without writing a line, without opening your mouth. Watch 20 hours of masters in action before trying to imitate them. Your ego will scream that this is a waste of time, but your brain is doing something invisible, building a complete mental map, identifying recurring patterns, preparing fertile ground. When you finally act, it will seem like you've done it 1,000 times before. Because in a way, you have, in the reverent observation that modern haste has murdered. Keiko, reverent repetition to exhaustion. Ichiyō Higuchi did something that would seem crazy today. She copied by hand, word for word, entire works by classic masters like Murasaki Shikibu and Sei Shonagon. She didn't read. She physically copied each character onto expensive paper she could barely afford. She spent months transcribing the pillow book in its entirety, feeling her hand cramp and her eyes burn. When friends asked why she didn't just read, she replied, "Reading enters through the eyes. Copying enters through the whole body." Keiko is the term geishas use for practice, but it's not just any practice. It's sacred, reverent repetition until physical exhaustion transforms movement into essence. A maiko repeats the same dance step 10,000 times before performing in public. A shamisen master plays the same scale every day for 40 years. It's not about stimulating variety. It's about deep penetration until the gesture becomes part of your soul. Ichiyō understood. You don't master literature by superficially reading 100 books. You master it by copying 10 masterpieces until your fingers bleed. I'm disgusted by my own resistance to repetition. I start learning Python. I do 20 different tutorials instead of repeating the same fundamental exercises until I master them. I read 5 books on writing instead of rewriting the same paragraph 50 times until it's perfect. My brain craves novelty, the dopamine of new content. But mastery doesn't reside in variety. It resides in the reverent repetition that my ego considers too boring. Ichiyō knew that boredom is the price of excellence that nobody wants to pay. Here's the Keiko challenge. Choose one fundamental skill you want to learn and obsessively repeat it for 30 days. Not 10 different things, one. If it's writing, rewrite the same paragraph 100 times. If it's an instrument, play the same scale 500 times. If it's a language, repeat the same 50 phrases until you dream about them. It will seem like a waste of time while everyone else is moving forward, consuming new content. But in a month, you'll have a depth they'll never achieve with superficial variety. Keiko isn't efficient. It's transformative. Kata, master the form before breaking the rules. Ichiyō spent 3 years writing exclusively in the bungo style, an ultra-formal classical Japanese style that was already obsolete in the Meiji era. Her friends thought it ridiculous. Why write like it's the 10th century when it's 1890? She ignored them. She meticulously mastered the archaic grammatical rules, the poetic structures of the Heian period, and the rhythmic patterns of classical waka. Only after completely mastering kata, the perfect form, did she begin to break it, creating a revolutionary prose that blended classical with colloquial feminine language. Her innovation only worked because it was built on an impeccable foundation. Kata is sacred in Japanese martial arts. They are the fundamental patterns that you faithfully copy before being allowed to create. A maiko learns specific dance kata. Each fan movement has an ao-sao. Exact angle, each step has millimeter-precise distance. There is no personal style in the first 5 years. There is only, do exactly as the master does. Genius comes later, but it only holds up if it is anchored in perfect form. The problem of our generation is wanting to be Picasso without mastering realistic anatomy first. We want our unique voice skipping the basic kata, and we remain eternally mediocre because of it. Here's your uncomfortable truth. You're probably trying to innovate too early. If you're learning to write, master the basic narrative structures first. Hero's journey, 3 acts, classic character arcs. Only then invent your crazy structure. If you're learning design, master color theory, grid systems, visual hierarchy. Only then creatively break everything. Ichiyō would challenge you. Spend 6 months just copying masters without adding anything of your own. Your ego will beg for authenticity. Ignore it. Kata first, genius later. There are no shortcuts, only arrogance that keeps you an amateur. Ichigo Ichii. Each study session is unrepeatable. Ichiyō wrote as if each session were her last, because she intuitively knew it could be. She had undiagnosed tuberculosis, lived in extreme poverty, and felt her body weakening. So when she sat down to write at 4 a.m., the only quiet time in the noisy tenement, she treated those hours as unrepeatable. There was no, I'll revise it better tomorrow. There was only, this page needs to carry everything I have. Now. When she died at 24, she left masterpieces because each session was treated with Ichigo Ichii, the acute awareness that that specific moment would never return. Ichigo Ichii is the mantra of tea masters. One time, one encounter. Each ceremony is treated as if it were the last time those people will meet in that exact setting. Same room, but different light. Same tea, but the season has changed. This existential urgency transforms routine acts into sacred ones. Geishas apply this. Ichiyō. Ozashiki is unique. Each conversation with a client is unrepeatable. There is no autopilot. There is total presence because the moment doesn't return. When you study with this awareness, your brain records 10 times deeper because it feels like it's at stake. Do you study math thinking, I have my whole life to master this? Or as if today is your only chance? I wasted years on the illusion of infinite time. Next week, I'll really focus. Next month, I'll start seriously. Ichiyō didn't have that. Luxury, and paradoxically, urgency freed her. Try this. Before each study session, think, if I died tomorrow, this would be my last chance to learn this. Morbid? Maybe. Effective? Absolutely. Ichigo Ichii isn't pessimism. It's radical presence that transforms mediocre learning into permanent absorption. Kokoro okomete. Learning with emotional intention. When Ichiyō opened a book of classic literature, he wasn't engaging in intellectual exercise. He was fighting for the survival of his ailing mother and younger sister. Each character he memorized meant the potential to sell a story, which meant food on the table, which meant his family wouldn't starve. This visceral emotional urgency etched each lesson into his brain like fire on wood. Kokoro okomet literally means to put your whole heart into it, and Ichiyō had no choice. Each page read carried despair, hope, familial love, and the terror of failure. Modern neuroscience confirms intense emotion is neurological glue. Emotionally, charged memories become permanent. Tea ceremony masters repeat kokoro okomete like a mantra. Every movement, folding the fukusa, swirling the bowl, serving the tea, must carry complete emotional intention. It's not a mechanical gesture. It's meditation in motion where you deposit gratitude, respect, presence. Geishas apply this to everything. Every note on the shamisen carries feeling. Every dance step tells an emotional story. The opposite of empty technical performance. When you learn something, connected to real emotion, not self-help motivation, but emotion that hurts, that burns, that truly matters, your brain treats it as survival information and prioritizes it absolutely. Why are you learning what you're learning now? Because it will be useful in the future isn't an emotional answer. It's weak rationalization that your brain ignores. Ichiyō would challenge you. Connect your learning to something that makes you cry, tremble, or get angry. Learn English not for your career, but because you need to communicate with someone you love. Study programming not because the market demands it, but because you want to build something that solves a real pain point for you or someone close to you. If you can't connect emotionally, you'll study with heroic effort and forget everything in 6 months. A lesson becomes a scar, and scars never disappear. Narao yori narero. Familiarity surpasses formal instruction. Ichiyō didn't visit Yoshiwara as a literary tourist. She deliberately rented the cheapest room she could find right next to the geisha district. She woke to the sound of shamisen being tuned. She fell asleep listening to the conversations of Maiko returning from Ozashiki. She bought rice from the same vendors who served the okiya. She breathed in the scent of incense, makeup, and sake every single day. She applied narao yori narero, the proverb that musical geishas lived by. More than formal study, become completely accustomed. When she finally wrote about that world, every detail was visceral because she had lived immersed in it, not studied it from a distance. Geishas who play the shamisen practice something radical. They literally sleep with the instrument next to their futon. They wake up, they play. They wait for clients, they play. They converse with the okasan, the shamisen in their lap. The instrument becomes an extension of the body, not through heroic 4-hour sessions, but through constant and unavoidable contact. Unconscious familiarity makes the brain categorize it as part of normal life instead of an external task I need to force. Neuroscience confirms spaced and frequent exposure surpasses isolated, intense sessions. You don't master a language by studying 5 hours on Saturday. You master it by living in it for 20 minutes every day for years. Do you study Python for 2 hours on Sunday, or do you transform your environment so that coding becomes inevitable? Change your phone to the language you want to learn. Put vocabulary post-it. Notes on every object in your house. Replace entertainment podcasts with content in the target language. Ichiyō would ask you, does your environment force learning, or do you need heroic discipline every day? If it depends on willpower, you've already lost. Narao Yori Narero is environmental architecture. Transform your space so that familiarity happens without conscious effort. Then mastery becomes inevitable, not optional. Shuhari, the 3 stages of any mastery. Ichiyō went through the entire Shuhari journey so clearly that it became a case study. Shu, guard, obey. From ages 17 to 20, she obsessively copied classical masters, Murasaki Shikibu, Sei Shonagon, poets of the Heian period. Reverent imitation without questioning, without putting her own touch. Ha, break, diverge. At 21, she began adapting the classic style to portray contemporary women, maintaining structure but changing content. Leave, transcend. At 23, in Takekurabe, he created something new. Prose that no one had ever seen, a unique voice that transcended masters. But he only reached Ri because he didn't skip Shu. Most skip it. Shuhari comes from Japanese martial arts and permeates everything. Tea ceremony, ikebana, geisha dance. Amaiko spends 5 years in pure Shu, copying every movement of her Onisan, older sister, with robotic precision. No personality, no my way of dancing, only total obedience to the form. After years, she gains permission for Ha, subtly, adapting, questioning, adjusting. Only veterans with decades of experience achieve transcendence, where they create their own choreographies. The system works because it respects that premature ego kills mastery. You need to dissolve into the master before you can find yourself beyond him. Brutal diagnosis. You're probably trying to operate in Shei or Rai when you're still in Shu. You want your authentic voice after reading 3 books on writing. You want your coding style after 6 months of programming. Your ego can't handle the humility of being a faithful copy for years. But Ichiyō would show you her manuscripts copying Murasaki, pages and pages of uncreative imitation. Only after emptying her ego through total obedience did she fill the void with her own genius. Honest question, what stage are you really at? And do you have the courage to go back to Shu and start copying until you master it? Ikigai, no gakushu. Learning connected to the reason for being. Ichiyō Higuchi had the perfect ikigai. Literature was simultaneously what she loved, passion, what the world needed, mission, what she mastered, vocation, and what could sustain her, profession. When all 4 intersections align, learning ceases to be effort and becomes breath. She woke up at 4 a.m., not out of heroic discipline, but because she couldn't not write. Each published story fed her family and fed her soul. There was no separation between survival and purpose. That's why she mastered literature at an absurd speed. She wasn't learning an external skill, she was developing her reason for being. Traditional geishas have a crystal-clear ikigai, preserving ancient art, mission, which they deeply love, passion, which they technically master, vocation, and which sustains them financially, profession. When you ask a veteran geiko, why do you continue? She doesn't understand the question. It's like asking, why do you breathe? The continuous learning of dance, shamisen, and ceremony is not a task, it's identity. When your ikigai is aligned, you don't need to motivate yourself to study. You need to restrain yourself from stopping. The speed of learning becomes a natural consequence, not a forced goal. The problem for most is learning things disconnected from any true ikigai. Be honest. Why are you learning what you're learning now? It seems useful, isn't ikigai. Everyone does it, isn't ikigai. It can make money, is only a quarter of ikigai. Ichiyō would challenge you. Find something that crosses all 4 intersections, or stop wasting time. Do you love it? Does the world need it? Can you master it? Can you make a living from it? If anyone is missing, your learning will always be an effort against internal resistance. But when all four align, as they did for Ichiyō at age 17, speed ceases to be a problem. You learn 10 times faster, not because you have better technique, but because you are finally learning something that justifies your existence.